Hello, everyone, and welcome to Book Explorers, where we explore wonderful books for kindergarten to second grade and third through fifth grade every month. I'm April. I work at the Green Valley Ranch branch of the Denver Public Library, and I hope you were able to catch my previous videos where I introduced this book, Charlie and Mouse and Grumpy by Laurel Snyder. And also, we drew a robot from the uppercase letter E, which was a lot of fun. In this video, we are going to discuss Charlie and Mouse and Grumpy a little bit deeper. We're going to talk about authors and illustrators, more about the settings, the characters. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you'll enjoy it too. So books like Charlie and Mouse and Grumpy work like this. They have authors who write the words and the sentences that make up the story, and they also have illustrators who draw the pictures or the illustrations that are based on how the author has described the characters in the story or the setting or the themes. Anything that goes on in the story, the illustrators work with the authors to make them come to life is one way to think about it. So there's a lot of literacy going on in here in terms of print literacy, so the words, and also visual literacy. So there are a lot of clues about what is going on to give the reader a fuller sense of the whole story, a way to provide context so the reader can figure out what's going on. So here on this 2-page spread, I wanted to show you that we have Charlie right here, who is singing to Grumpy, and a clue that the illustrator has given is to provide that musical note. And to me, that means he is singing to Grumpy and Grumpy's listening. And if we go right here to the other side, we have Grumpy and Charlie again. But what happened to Grumpy? Not only does he look like he's sleeping, but now we have those Z's, which in a lot of books mean that someone is snoring. Another thing that I really like about the illustrations in books like these is that the illustrators also give clues as to what the chapter is going to be about. So here we have the name of the first chapter, which is called Medium. And the illustrator has included a picture of a hot dog. So that gives us a clue as to what we are going to read in the story. Sometimes, and it's a bit tricky, sometimes the illustrator gives clues as to the themes. And one of the themes in this one has to deal with sadness. And if we take a look at the last chapter, it is titled Goodbye. And the illustrator has included what looks like raindrops, but it could also be tears. And the best way to find out what is going to happen in that chapter is usually just to read it. Sometimes the authors use words that you might not know. So if we look at the title of the second chapter, it is called Pouncing. Well, you might not know what that means, but as you read, you get clues from what is happening in the pictures. And I wanted to show you this one. And this is the last page of the chapter. And this shows what pouncing is. And I just love that the illustrator has found such a fun way to show what that word means. I also want to show you something at the very, very end of this book, which is this. And let me see if I can get it right. Here we go. And it is a letter that Charlie and Mouse have written their grandfather. The author actually doesn't talk about it in the story, so I like that the illustrator has decided to include this because to me it helps make the story keep going in my mind. Let me read the letter to you. It is, Dear Grumpy, you forgot your toothbrush. XOXOXXO, which means hugs and kisses. Charlie and Mouse. P.S. Come back soon. And do you know what P.S. means? P.S. means postscript, which means after script. So after you've written something. And you can think of it like this. You've written your whole letter. You've even signed your name. And then you decided, wait a minute, I want to add something else. And that's where the P.S. comes in. Have you ever written a letter to someone? It's a really nice thing to do. It lets the person know that you're thinking about them and that you're trying to find ways to communicate. Also, sending a letter through the mail is different than making a phone call because in a phone call, you can't include things like this. And do you see what Charlie and Mouse have done? Yeah, it looks like they drew a robot for Grumpy to look at. And that's something you just can't do on the phone sometimes. So, writing a letter to a loved one, to a family member, especially if they live far away, that's one way that you can keep in touch. Reading books like Charlie and Mouse and Grumpy might also bring a different perspective that you might not have considered. And perspective is a different way of looking at something. So let me show you what I mean. So in the first chapter, which is called Medium, and if you remember, had a picture of a hot dog on it, we have Grumpy here who's arriving, and he is going to fix lunch for Mouse and Charlie. And Grumpy says that they are getting so big. Well, Charlie agrees. He says, yes, I am getting so big. I can read and swim and eat 3 hot dogs. Well, that is a lot of hot dogs. And I consider myself big, but I can't eat 3 hot dogs. That's a lot for me. So what is big? What makes someone big? And I don't know that there's a right answer or a wrong answer, but that was something that I hadn't thought about before. Here we have Charlie who can eat 3 hot dogs, and he's big. Well, I'm big, but I can only eat 1 hot dog. And he says that he can eat 3 hot dogs with mustard. I can only eat 1 hot dog with mustard. I do like mustard. However, Mouse says that he is not getting big. And Grumpy says, well, what are you getting then? And Mouse thought, and then he says, I am getting medium. Well, have you ever thought about yourself as a medium person? What does that mean? How can you be medium so that you're not big, you're not small, but you're somewhere in the middle? Well, Mouse says that when you are medium, you can read some books, but also people read books to you. And the illustrator has included what looks like their dad reading a book to both Mouse and Charlie. And also, Mouse says, when you are medium, you can swim, but your mom sits on the steps and watches. And we can see down here, there is Mouse, and there's his mom watching, just in case. And Mouse says that when you are medium, you can still eat 3 hot dogs, but not with mustard. Mustard is not medium. Well, have you ever thought about mustard being a big thing to eat? I never thought about it, but this is a very interesting perspective. Sometimes you don't think about certain foods or certain, let's say, ketchup or mustard or mayonnaise as being big or small or medium. So that's something that you might think about. What do you think you are? Do you think you're big? And what does that mean? Or do you think you're medium? And what does that mean to you? Or do you think you could be small? That's something interesting to think about. The last chapter in this book is called Goodbye. And as you saw before, we have these raindrops or tears. And if we take a look at the illustration, what do you see? I see Grumpy, who's packing his suitcase, and there's Mouse with his blanket, and then we have Charlie. And if we take a look at their faces, do they look happy? No, they kind of look sad, don't they? And if we take this in and pair it with goodbye, I think these might be tears and not raindrops. Let's look at the words that the author has written. So they were all very quiet. Mouse sighed. Blanket is sad. Why is Blanket sad? Asked Grumpy. Blanket is sad because of the rain, said Mouse. Oh, said Grumpy. I thought maybe it was something else. And that made me think about emotions. And it's very, very important to pay attention to your emotions and what you're feeling inside. And I know that when you feel sad, sometimes you feel it in your whole body. And that's normal. It's natural to feel that. Sometimes, though, it's really hard to explain or talk about those big emotions that you're feeling in your body. Sometimes you just don't know what to say. And I think it's important to find a grown-up that you feel safe with to talk about everything that's going on in your body. All the big emotions that you might be feeling, like sadness or worry. And an adult can help you figure out what to do about those feelings. Another way that might help to calm yourself if you feel like there's just so much going on in your body and you don't know what to do. Sometimes breathing is a great way to help calm yourself down. And the way to do it is by putting your hands on your belly and doing deep breathing. Let me show you what I mean. So you can stand like I'm doing, or you can sit. It doesn't matter. You can also lay down on the floor, whatever feels most comfortable for you. What I like to do is place my hands on my belly and try to breathe from my belly and not my lungs. So, do you see my hands are moving in and out? Think of filling your belly with air like a balloon. When you blow air into a balloon, it gets bigger. And when you let go of the balloon, it gets really small, right? So think about filling your belly with air like a balloon and then squeezing all the air out. So let's try it. I'm going to take a deep breath in and then out. And when you breathe out, try to push all the air out. Let's try it one more time. Take a deep breath in and then out. If if you have a stuffed animal like this, you can also put it on your belly if you're laying on the floor. And sometimes it's easier to watch your stuffed animal go up and down as you're breathing. So it'll go up as you're filling your stomach or your belly with air, and then down again when you are pushing it all out. So try to make your friend on your belly go up and down, just like this when you breathe in, and then out again as you breathe out. So in and then out. And it's kind of fun watching your friend move up and down as you breathe in and out. I really hope that you enjoyed this exploration of Charlie and Mouse and Grumpy by Laurel Snyder. It's an always available title, which means that you can grab an ebook version of this with no wait. Just go to www.denverlibrary.org. We have a lot of fun Book Explorer videos that you can explore on our kids website at kids.denverlibrary.org. Until I see you again, happy reading.